David Kenny Durojaiye. Audio engineer, drummer, sound designer, and music producer. With over 10 years of industry experience, he's been blessed to work with a wide variety of top African and global brands like telecommunications giant MTN Nigeria, the Dangote Group, Flutterwave, PZ Cousins, Stanbic IBTC Bank, Family Feud Nigeria, just to name a few. As a drummer, he's been blessed to work with so many artists. He's also the co-founder of the Party Alliance, a unique podcast production company that specializes in producing podcasts for corporate companies and brands. He's married to his lovely wife Sarah, and together they are working in God's purpose for their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Be Authentic 2023, David Kenny Durojaiye.
Yeah. You guys, this is good. First off, chill. I see you every day. Mommy, good afternoon, ma. I have heard a lot about you. It's funny that we will meet this way. So glad to meet you. You raised an amazing man. An amazing man. Sorry, who among these two beautiful ladies is your sister? Nice to meet you too. Yeah. I've seen you guys in pictures, but I've never met you guys real life. And nice to meet everybody. Shout out to The Groove. And everybody just clap for The Groove, I beg. Please. The groove is what happens when a guy does three of the things I want to talk about today. I really just want to talk about three major things. But in the process, I will share the story of my life with all of you. So you kind of like have an idea of how flowers can grow from concrete and how crooked sticks can draw straight lines if you follow these three things. I think it was 2016. The carol was coming up. I wasn't going to be able to play. The carol in Daystar Christian Center was coming up, and The Groove was going to play that year for the first time. That was the year I was passing on the baton to him as a drummer in the Daystar Youth Fellowship. And I remember him calling me and telling me, just expressing all his fears and concerns about how, not about his skill, but about how that was the first time he would do something of that grandiose level. But I'm sure I was very shocked at the surprise, at the response I gave to him, which was quite lackadaisical, to say the least. I just brushed it aside like, yo, don't worry, you'll be fine. It's something small. And of course, he went there, he killed it. And after we spoke afterwards, I told him something very important that I saw that he has carried with him. Don't get too excited. There is more. Don't be quick to be taken by, if is that you? More. I'm meeting too many people for the first time here. Nice to meet you, bro. Nice to meet you. But reply my message for WhatsApp like 1 year ago. I don't catch you. Nice one, bro. Nice to meet you, man. So three things. I was born on the 14th of July. It was a Tuesday, 1992. I turned 31 years old this year. I'm going to be 32 next year. It wasn't until 2012 that my mom told me a very funny story. By the way, I lost my dad when I was 12 going on 13, and that changed the trajectory of my life forever. Kind of like same with The Groove. And it's funny that we're both David as well. Many similarities. You guys, they pay me royalties, guy. My mom told me in 2012, when I was about to make a pivotal change in my life, about something that happened to me, that occurred when I was about 11 months old, almost a year old. And I had gone to her that day to tell her that I was frustrated with my life And this was in 2012. I think I had just turned 20, I think. And I felt like God was calling me to take a different path. And I shared it with her. And she told me the story. She didn't respond to all the complaints I gave. She just went straight to the story. That around 11 months old, there was a program that used to air on radio at the time, you know, between 1990, and it kind of like stopped around 95. It was an R&B soul program. And that as a kid, as an 11-month-old baby, that program aired by 7 a.m. every morning. I would wake myself up, throw myself, you know, down from the bed, because I used to stay on the bed with them, and crawl to my uncle's room. Uncle Augustine was staying with us at the time, my mom's brother. And I would scratch on the door and, you know, make baby noises. And I wouldn't stop throwing a fit till they put that program on. And I would listen to it. I won't bathe, I won't eat, I won't do anything. And I did that consistently for like 2 years. And it remained a mystery to herself and my father, how a baby who couldn't even talk would do that consistently before 7 a.m. every single morning for like 2 years. And she told me that to tell me that something that I kind of like discovered later on in my life. There's some things that are written in the stars. You can't escape your destiny. You can't. There's nothing you can do about it. So by 2012, my father died in my arms when I was 12. I was preparing for Caleb. He was the chief economist officer of Wema Bank in the whole of Nigeria before he died. So life was good. You know, went to Caleb, British. You know, all my classmates were Chinese, Lebanese, expatriates, you know. And then in one day, we went from there to like here. Like, bare bottom. You understand? No food to eat, no nothing. All our savings, we spent it on my dad's health because he was sick for a period of 1 year before he finally died. And so all of that, many things went on there. But the one thing that remained true to me was music. You know, it started with drums for me. Like I said, when all of this was going on as a baby, my mom lost count of how many glass plates I broke, how many cups I broke. And one time, I tore my hand. I still even have the scar till now here. And I was bleeding, but I didn't start crying till the music stopped. So she came out and she was screaming in Yoruba that, like, are you possessed? What is actually, because as a baby, if something is wrong with you, the way your mom knows something is wrong is when you start crying. But she just pulled up to the sitting room and sees me bleeding, but I'm there laughing and just, you know, enjoying myself. All of these things went on. And of course, my father was a bit of an academic. He was an economist. He had a master's, you know, was doing good in the finance industry. And so he had dreams for his first son. You know, his first son was going to work with Shell because my dad did some stuff with Shell on Bonny Island in Port Harcourt. And then he came back and he was telling me as a young child back then, I remember the conversation that, yo, these guys are balling, man. You know, this is what I want my son to, you know, do. And those were very nice dreams, you know, for a father. Who doesn't want a good, you know, life for their children? Everybody does, right? But that was not meant to be. And so when he died, I tried to walk that path. So after, you know, like the Nigerian academic system gave me like bars boosts for like years. I finished high school 2008, and by this 2012, when I was having a conversation with my mom, 4 years later, I had not gotten into any university. Funny thing is, I will pass every single exam. In fact, I went to PTI, Petroleum Training Institute at Efurun in Warri. And when I did the exam, I was not a dull student. I got 5 Bs, 3 Cs in my WAEC. Every single examination I have done in my life. The sound guy, Jubal. Me and Jubal stay 5 minutes away from each other, but we barely see each other. So that's another Kenny for another day. But me and Juba went to the same audio school. I was best in my class. I've never had problems with academics in my life. But every single exam I would write jump, do post jump. I will pass ridiculously, but my name won't come out on the list. So after a while, it felt like Ogwaye is doing me. So, I was on that verge of maybe I need to go to a church or go and see somebody special when I told my mom this. And my mom told me this story and then said about 2 lines afterwards, and she didn't say anything anymore because she knew that I had come to, my eureka moment, that, aha moment when the light bulb goes off in your head and you're like, this is not about what mommy told you, what daddy told you. You found your path. You don't just know it's your path yet. So she told me, she said, I always knew that you will make this decision and you will come to this moment, but this was your decision to make. You have to choose who you are going to be. And that's the first point I want to make: identity. You have to invest in knowing about you. Most of us are living out scripts that other people wrote for us. And after a while, you see, poverty does something to you. Living in Nigeria does something to you. It keeps you super focused on what to eat and what to wear. And that's why majority of people go through life as sheep. Just being led by other people, being led by systems, being led by other people's dreams, being led by government policies, but never for one day finding out what their own path is. The unfortunate thing about that is it's very nice. I'm going to find my path. However, the way you find your path is a very messy way. You find it in literal fire. The very thing you're running away from is the very thing that God is going to use to take your life to the next level. It's hard. It's the hardest thing you will ever do. God gives you great gifts, but he packages it in very obscene ways that don't make sense to you. I was talking with a very good friend and protege of mine. Everywhere I go with him, I always like to announce him because he's such an intelligent dude. In maybe 5 years from now, he'll be doing times 10 of everything I've done. His name is AY. Please, everybody shout out to AY. And clap for AY because AY is, I have a younger brother, but he's the only other younger brother I have in my life. An amazing dude. And I was telling him today, I told him, I said, see, the way you find your purpose is in darkness. That's how you find it. In isolation. When all the chips are down, you don't have where else to go, you don't know what else to do. That's where you find your purpose. And that's the second thing I want to talk about, purpose. So I like using examples. Cars. I like cars. I really like cars. But there are different kinds of vehicles, right? A sedan car, that's a normal, small car that isn't as high as an SUV, is, probably the most popular vehicle. Then you have SUVs, you have crossover SUVs, you have trucks, you have caterpillars, you have trains, you have airplanes. These are all vehicles that have different functions. So identity is identifying the vehicle you need when you walk into the car lot. Do you understand? So it's just me and my wife now. So we don't need more than the car that I have. But when we have kids, I've talked to her about it, and we have to get like a minivan. Do you understand? Because of the kids. You feel me? And so you buy a car according to the need that you have. You understand? Some of you are sedan cars and you're operating like caterpillars. And that's why you're dying in depression. You understand? Some of you are airplanes. These are all and this is the problem that we have in our generation. There's this comparing and contrasting thing. Do you understand? AY is balling here, me too, I should. It's not the same script. And the reason why you're like that is because you don't know who you are. All this jealousy, depression, anxiety, frustration, comparing yourself with someone else, all those things go on because you actually don't even know your path. You don't know who you are. Do you understand? Then when you know who you are, when you buy the kind of car you want, you're buying that car because it fits the need that you have, but there is also a purpose for it. When that car outlives its purpose, you will get another one. That's the concept of evolution. Not staying in the same place. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? You evolve. Okay, so let me stop there and give you a little bit of story of my life. So it started with drums. By 8 years old, they were bringing me from children's church to come and play Thanksgiving in the main church, in the local church we went to at the time. My mom and my dad, when they saw those things, all those ara that I did as a child, they invested in encouraging me. So by the time I was 8, 9, I had probably scored by ear maybe about 6 albums, from everything from Alvin Slaughter. I don't know if anybody knows Integrity Music 90s. Okay. Alvin Slaughter, Dom Wayne, everybody knows Dom Wayne, Maranatha Music, those OGs. I scored Ron Kenolly, I scored all those albums by ear. And I didn't know how to read music at the time. But what I didn't know was that I was building a special capacity to be able to understand how music was made and how music should sound. So by the time I was 15, 16, I had a major breakthrough in my life at the time, 2009, I think. I played Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, used to hold nights of friendship back then. It was like a mini experience for the Pentecostal churches on the mainland. And Cobhams was there, Jadelle was there, you know, her song was popping at the time, Heritage, Wale Oni was there, you know, and I was a 16-year-old chap, and I walked into the rehearsal, and they were like drummers everywhere, because we're talking all the popping churches on the mainland, but I'd been cooking in secret. And, you know, when the music director of that band called for me to come play God, Great God by Kotka, you know, and is that Kotka, please? Yeah, thank you very much. I slammed it, I killed it. And even Cobhams, you know, it was like, who is that boy? You know, and all of that. Who is that guy? And I played, and it was an amazing Kenny for me. And, you know, I got this sort of street credibility, you understand? A couple of years later, I moved to Daystar, still drums, right? But in 2012, one of those days I was playing drums in a church I was working for at the time at Allen, and our keyboardist at the time was Eben's music producer, Eben, the gospel musician. And one of those days, we're preparing for a program, for a musical concert, and then he just stops. He just stops playing, and he looks at me and says, dude, you have the ears of a music producer. Because I can count how many times you've parried for all of us in this rehearsal because you heard that alto didn't sing what they were supposed to sing. Like, how do you pick that from playing drums where you are? You understand? All the horns guys must play well. I was talking with John Clef yesterday when I was band leader of DYF. I would be preparing for those legendary concerts that we used to have. I would literally stop playing if the light guys missed a cue. That was how attentive I was to detail. And I was just doing this with Ginger. Do you understand? Because I would watch a lot of documentaries, you know, Beyonce's concerts, you know, Franklin's concerts, and I saw the level of excellence. So here I am in Daystar that has equipment, lights, and all those things. So we should be able to do the same thing now. You understand what I'm saying? Evolution. It wasn't just about playing drums for me. You will reveal to you who you are supposed to be. After you find the identity and you're walking on your path, you will reveal to your own self what's next. The only problem is that we don't like asking ourselves that question, what is next? Mediocrity is sweet to Nigerians. We celebrate it. In fact, we award it. Yo, sorry. Okay. We award mediocrity. We celebrate it. It's something that we like. Once you've achieved one thing, because evolution is hard, we celebrate it. We stay there. That is all we know. And so, Matt Keys, Eben's producer, gave me my first DAW, FL Studio 8, I think, or 7, on my crappy laptop. And he just taught me, oh, yo, this is the step sequencer, this is the mixer, this is the playlist, this is how you arrange your beats, this is the piano roll, all right, bye. And that was all he did. And I came back 2 weeks later with like 8 beats that I had made. And that was my journey into music production, right? What intrigued me about producing music was I always played music with other musicians. But here I am with this program in this tiny box that is my laptop, and I can make everything sound the way I want it to sound. You understand? So if the horns guys are not playing well, I have a plug-in simulation of horns that I can track out and make it sound the way I want, make it sound the way I want it to sound. But all through this period, Sakpa was Sakmaing, because as I said, I lost my dad. So when I speak and when people hear where I'm coming from, they're like, oh, but the privilege stopped the day my dad died. There were days we had 2K in the house. My brother was in school and he needed 3K. And we didn't, the 2K in the house was all we needed to, it wasn't even enough for us to eat. I went through all of that. I was telling AY today, what didn't I go through? What didn't we go through? The same market where my mom would drive to go and buy food was the same market she became Mama Put. My life is the literal definition of going from 100 to 0. You understand what I'm saying? So I think in that regard, I'm kind of like an example of literally what I said in the beginning, how roses and flowers can grow from unseeming conditions, right? And so that happened, and I got my first DAW, and I started making music. When I started making music, I didn't like the way it sounded, and that led me into, learning to engineer sound for my own self. And to do that, I went to school to do that. I tried to get into that school for 3 years, and we just couldn't afford it. And it wasn't up until 2016 that I was able to go there. And once I had gotten the skills, I don't really have a lot of time to give you guys all the little details, so I'm going to hurry things along now. Once I had gotten the skills, thank you very much, man. I sweat a lot. Once I had gotten the skills that I needed, it was now about implementation. I'm the firstborn of 4 children. And so all the jobs I did while I was growing up, while I was coming up, music kept me off the streets. It kept me off drugs. I remember 2007 when Olumentain dropped Yahuzi. That was not just a song. That was when it really blew up and boys were into G. You understand? And boys were going to cyber cafe at that time to go and do G. But I found a place of solace in church, in music. I would go there and I would get my dopamine rush. I would get fulfillment. I would leave it all out on stage everywhere I went to. And so once that happened, it was now about another stage of evolving, of evolution. What am I going to do with these skills? At the time, I didn't know anybody like me operating in all of these offices at the same level. Drummer, music producer, audio engineer, sound designer. I didn't know anyone that was doing all of it on that level. Usually, what you would see back then would be musicians who were really good, and maybe when they branch into music production, they just leave, live music aside and they go into it. I didn't know of anyone that was performing on the same level, at this level. And then that led me to one very crucial point that I also want to make now: mentorship. You have to look for a way to position yourself to be led. You cannot go where you have never been without some sort of guide. Someone has to take you there. And that is why I don't know where Simon Keys is. Boss, when I first came to Daystar, I walked into Daystar as a dude who, understood how to, play music and stuff. But when I came into Daystar for one of their first rehearsals, I saw this dude with dreads on the keyboard. I saw Small Sam on drums. And I saw Durojaiye Kenny, lefty, on bass. They were playing that day. And I was just looking at all of these guys. And I was like, okay, for where I'm coming from, I know how to play music. But this is something else. This is just something wild. And then afterwards, after coming for a couple of weeks, I started talking to them. Hey, boss, Safa. Hey, this, Safa. And one of those days, I spoke with, I would always, whenever Simon Keys had an opportunity to say one or two things, this guy was always stuck on mindset. Like, what are you talking about? Mindset. Change your mind. So me, I was wondering, I was like, guy, it cannot be this easy. You guys have come again with all this philosophical talk. Instead of you to just teach us what you are doing. Teach us how to do it. But he was teaching us. He was saying it. We didn't just know. I didn't know at the time. And then one of those days, Durojaiye Kenny was going to his car. And he had packed up his bass and he was going. And he told me, he said, oh, he and Small Sam just came back from touring with Bears. I'm like, touring with Bears? Like, they pay you guys to travel out of the country to go and play? Like, visa, tickets, everything? Yeah. And it's like, yeah, I just came back, and all this hand practice. And he was just talking about his life. And he was walking to his car, right? And then we got to his car, and it was one crazy ass BMW. I'm like, guy, Etisheshu, you are doing something that you do. Do you understand? It wasn't until I met that set of musicians, them Simon Keys, Small Sam, Durojaiye Kenny, K-Sticks, all those guys, that I knew that you can build a family. You can pay for stuff. You can build a life from this music. It's enough. What we do is that we share our attention. You understand? So we do it with something else. Because we're in a community where you have to do 5 different things. You are not allowed to specialize. It's jama. You understand? Anywhere Bele face, tech loan ring by. We'll run there, tech. You don't care about tech. In fact, when you look at the screen too long, you begin to have a headache. But you run there because that's what everybody's doing now. Do you understand? I have a lot of music producer friends and audio engineer friends who are running to go and do data analytics. Not that anything is wrong with data analytics or DevOps or any of those things in tech. But it's not what you need to care enough about what you do. You see this thing that has been bastardized about passion, that they even use this as an example that, hey, Dangote is not passionate about cement or stuff. I was telling AY, Dangote is not passionate about cement, but Dangote is passionate about business. It keeps him out. It's not about the cement. It's not about sugar. He was mentored by Dan Tata, who was his uncle. So he was raised in that business model, that business side. He's passionate about getting resources from here, refining it here, throwing it out to the masses, doing profit and loss, scaling, advertisements, and all of that. When I worked with them on one of their major campaigns was when I really saw how much of an organizational structure that Dangote as a company is and how many mouths he feeds. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so that opened my mind up to the fact that this thing we're doing, it has a lot of potential. You can use it for something. But the difference between those guys and me was, number one, they knew who they were. Number two, this was all they were going to do. It's either we do this or we die here. Have you tried it enough? Have you slept on it enough? Gotten mentorship enough? Read enough? Do you understand? Studied enough before you can say that it's not working? Have you advertised enough? When the group started his YouTube channel, like at the time, he would even just send me random videos. What do you think about this? I'm like, what do I think about what? Why are you asking me? Post it. It doesn't need to make sense in the moment. You just need to know what your path is and be convinced about it and say, okay, this is the route I'm going to take. I got married last year, 2022. And when I was getting married, my biggest fear was, how am I supposed to do all of this? Because all through my life, I didn't have a dad. It was just me, my mom, and my siblings. I even had to become a dad to my siblings when I needed a dad. You understand what I'm telling you? So how am I supposed to take care of a family? How am I supposed to scale up? What am I supposed to do? And it became obvious to me. It was in that moment that I even now realized how far God had brought me. How far I had come. How far, this career has taken me. How I don't do anything else outside this multimedia audio work. Whether I'm doing it as a drummer, because now only an artist, I work with Obedakaya. He's the famous singer of God is a Miracle Worker. He also happens to be my uncle, by the way. He wrote that song in our house a couple of years ago. And he was a drummer for the legendary Panampasi Paul for years. So I definitely got that bug from him and all of that. And it wasn't until I looked back to where I was coming from and I saw where I was like, this thing actually works. This thing works. So identity, purpose, direction. That's the last thing I want to say. Direction. When you figure out who you are and you figure out what you're supposed to do, the next question you should ask is, what's the path? What path am I going to take? Simon Key said it very well when he came here. You're not supposed to do everything, even within this music field. Some of you are trying desperately to be artists, but you advertise better than anybody you know. Some of you are meant to be stage managers. Some of you are meant to be drum techs and, piano techs and all those things. Some of you are meant to be producers. Some of you are meant to be marketers. Some of you know how to sell something. You can sell water to a fish and he will buy it. Which leads me to the very last thing I want to say. The thing we inherited from, and I'll say this and get out of your hair. The thing we inherited from the past generation is that, people hoard knowledge and people hoard their skills. So collaboration is virtually impossible. Virtually impossible. This thing is happening because this dude has tentacles. People he's drawing support from. The Groove as a brand, Groove It Global as a brand, he's just the face of everything that Groove It Global is, the Groove is just about 20% of it. The remaining 80% is investors, mentors, people he's drawing inspiration from, people who are willing to put down money to say, yo, I believe in your vision, run with it. I don't know why we're all here. Some of you are good with graphics. Some of you are good with singing. Some of you are good with writing. And you guys can't come together to create something. You guys are waiting for opportunities to come to you. Proactively go after them. If you can write something. This is Christmas period. Write a Christmas jingle. Get one of your lawyer friends to give you like a small copyright thing. Go to the top 5 agencies. All of them pack themselves in GRE, Ikeja GRE there. Go and submit it as a proposal to them. Stop waiting for the opportunities to come to you. Go after them. Collaborate. Put your differences aside. Do you want 100% of zero, or you want 30% of $1 million? It's your choice. I created Party Alliance, a podcast production company recently, and we're already doing work with some of our clients. When I had the idea, I could have kept up the profit for myself, but I realized that I didn't have the skills necessary to scale the business in other areas. So I got together with 3 of my other friends who are professionals in the multimedia space, and they co-own the company with me in 4 ways. I'm not keeping the entire pie to myself. So that's another thing. When you find your path, when you find your direction, you can't go alone. You need to go with other people. You need to intentionally collaborate. Many other things to say, and I'll probably just stop here, and hopefully in the Q&A session I can answer some of your questions. But thank you very much. Yeah, God bless.